In late 2025, federal authorities announced the arrest of two young men identified as Milo Sedarat and Tomas Kaan Jimenez-Guzel following what investigators described as an alleged plot inspired by extremist ideology. According to public reporting, the arrests occurred across two states, New Jersey and Michigan, and came after a multi-agency inquiry that spans several months. Officials emphasize that the investigation remains ongoing, and details shared with the public represent only early findings. Neither suspect has been convicted, and both are presumed innocent unless proven guilty in a court of law. Early accounts indicate that federal agents began tracking online activity connected to extremist messaging and possible interest in international travel linked to militant groups. Sources familiar with the case reported that the two individuals were allegedly exploring travel to Turkey or Syria, which authorities say are known crossing points for individuals attempting to join extremist organizations. These claims have not yet been tested in court, and no pleas or verdicts had been reported at the time public coverage emerged. The case drew unusual public attention due to the reported background of one of the arrested individuals, Milo Sedarat, who is described in media coverage as the son of an Iranian-American poet. While this biographical detail carries no legal relevance, its mention in news reporting contributed to heightened discussion online, particularly concerning the contrast between creative, cultural work and allegations involving extremist motivations. The second individual, Tomas Kaan Jimenez-Guzel, is reported to be approximately 19 years old. Information about his background remains limited. His young age has contributed to questions around online influence, pathways toward radicalization, and the vulnerability of young people to ideological recruitment. The timeline of events began taking shape when investigators reportedly detected signals suggesting intent to travel internationally. Federal agencies have said that this type of patterned digital communication, followed by attempted overseas movement, has, in prior cases, been associated with individuals attempting to receive training from extremist groups. However, officials caution that not all travel or online expression constitutes criminal conduct. Establishing intent is a key factor in terrorism-related cases, and that responsibility ultimately lies with the courts. As the investigation advanced, authorities executed coordinated operations in multiple states. Reports indicated that one arrest occurred in New Jersey, while the other took place in Michigan, suggesting that federal teams had been monitoring the suspects' movements separately. The multi-state nature of the arrests later became one of the focal points in news commentary, highlighting the extent to which federal agencies often coordinate across jurisdictions to respond quickly when they believe public safety may be at risk. Following the arrests, investigators reportedly uncovered weapons and tactical-style equipment. At the time these details emerged, authorities did not provide a public explanation describing the intended use of those items, and their presence alone is not proof of criminal activity. In the United States, weapons possession is subject to a wide range of legal protections and restrictions, and many forms of tactical gear are commercially available. The relevance of these materials to the allegations will be determined through legal examination. The timing of the alleged plot around Halloween drew additional attention. Public events and holidays often draw large crowds, which in past cases have raised concerns about potential vulnerability. Officials stressed, however, that the arrests occurred before any act of violence took place and no injuries were reported. At this stage, no statement has confirmed whether any specific location, event, or group was targeted. Federal representatives pointed to the arrests as evidence of proactive monitoring and intervention, emphasizing that early disruption remains a key strategy in counterterrorism. Investigative efforts often involve evaluating communication patterns, travel inquiries, financial activity, and social media behavior. In this case, officials have not disclosed which specific indicators prompted surveillance or how early warning signals were identified. The public response included conversations about radicalization, online influence, and the continual challenges investigators face when distinguishing between private expression and actionable threat. Analysts noted that extremist propaganda continues to circulate through various online platforms, sometimes attracting individuals who lack stable social networks, face personal instability, or seek belonging. Commentators urged caution in drawing conclusions from early reports, emphasizing that complex cases can involve misinterpretation of data or incomplete information. Legal advocates have likewise reminded the public that suspects in federal investigations are entitled to due process. Accusations reported in the media can create strong emotional reactions, yet U.S. law requires prosecutors to meet high evidentiary standards before conviction. Defense attorneys often challenge the intent or context of alleged conduct, and in many cases, early characterizations evolve significantly as proceedings unfold. Community impact perspectives vary. Some observers expressed gratitude that authorities intervened before harm could occur. Others encouraged reflection on how young people might become isolated or recruited by dangerous ideologies and what preventive measures, educational, social, or economic, might help steer vulnerable individuals away from harmful online spheres. Civil rights advocates also emphasize the importance of ensuring that cases involving Middle Eastern or Muslim background are not used to stigmatize entire communities. Families from those regions are diverse, and allegations against individuals should not lead to unfounded bias. Commentary arose around the involvement of the FBI and other federal agencies, including their use of digital surveillance tools. While such tools can help prevent violence, privacy advocates continue to raise questions about the scope of data monitoring, the threshold for initiating investigations, and the possibility of overreach. These debates form part of the broader national conversation about balancing civil liberties with public safety. Further reporting is expected as the legal process continues. Information about charges, legal representation, and hearings will determine how the case progresses. If prosecutors pursue formal terrorism-related charges, court filings may provide additional detail about the alleged goals, timeline, and communication methods. If cases proceed to trial, both prosecution and defense will present evidence, and a judge or jury will evaluate the facts. As with all ongoing investigations, much remains unknown. Federal authorities have not publicly identified a specific target, nor have they confirmed whether the suspects were part of a larger network. The extent to which they may have interacted with foreign individuals or organizations has not been verified. Cases of this nature often take years to resolve. Plea deals, evidentiary rulings, and procedural delays can all influence the timeline. Throughout this process, transparency from officials, responsible reporting by media outlets, and critical thinking from the public remain vital. This situation underscores a central truth: preventing violence often depends on early detection, clear communication between agencies, and a public willing to engage thoughtfully with emerging information. It also reminds us that allegations do not equate to guilt, and that legal judgment must follow evidence, not assumption. As the story continues to evolve, further updates will help clarify the nature of the case, the evidence presented, and the legal outcomes for the individuals involved. Until then, observers and analysts alike are encouraged to maintain caution, avoid premature conclusions, and remember the human complexity behind every headline.